My red shirt is like. Yeah, no.
You didn't drop it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Sorry.
I now call the September 17th, 2025 Sugarland 4B Corporation meeting to order. Item 2, public hearing, public comment. We will now move on to item 3. Public comment. Citizens who desire to address the board with regard to matters on the agenda must complete a request to speak form and give it to the city secretary or designee prior to the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Speaker requiring a translator will have 6 minutes regardless of the number of agenda items to be addressed. Comments or discussion by the board will only be made at the time the subject is scheduled for consideration. So you have it.
No one's on it.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes. We will now move on to item 4A. Consideration of an action on the minutes of the August 20th, 25 meeting in the joint Sugarland Development Corporation and Sugarland 4B Corporation September 2nd, 2025 meeting. Does anybody have any corrections? Motion from Alan, second from Stewart. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Public hearing, we will now move on to item 5A, public hearing, receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the performance agreement between Sugarland 4B Corporation and Q's Deli LLC.
Good afternoon, Sugarland 4B Board of Directors. We have 2 guests in the back that I'd like to recognize. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. My name is Fayaz Qureshi.
My name is Ali Qureshi. We run a deli here in Sugarland. We've been here for 3 years. We just got named top 100 sandwich shop in America on Yelp. And we knew that the city of Sugarland had to be the first location with a diverse upbringing that it has. And we appreciate you guys having us and we love it here. So
Thank you for attending and for applying for our grants. Today I'll be presenting to you as the board a performance agreement for public hearing and approval. It's in front of you in case you need a copy of it for Q's Deli. And so to start in the September of 24, the 4B Board of Directors moved a resolution for a commercial revitalization grant program. And Q's Deli applied for this grant, which is why I'm presenting this agreement to you today. Outreach was conducted to all eligible commercial property owners, and to date 4 applications were. I'll actually talk about that in the upcoming workshop. Some of the program goals are here. We focus on promoting economic growth, attracting quality retail and community amenities, substantially enhancing community aesthetics, creating vibrant activity centers, support pedestrian-friendly environments, cultivating community identity, and fostering transformative reinvestment in our commercial areas. Now, a little bit about Q's Deli, our applicant. It was founded by Ali Qureshi, who was inspired by his father, who immigrated to the United States in 1982 and ran delis in Houston starting in the late 80s. He brought his Q's Deli to Sugarland following COVID-19, and it's unique in that all of their meats are 100% halal, which is a very unique offering for delis. And the name Q's and Q's Deli honors the Qureshi family legacy. And so great local business specific here to Sugarland. They opened in 22. They've had over 73,000 visitors since they've opened. And you actually included this trade area based on their work location. We have a lot of people visit their deli from the Sugar Creek Triangle Office Park, the Sugar Creek Center, as well as the Sugarland Business Park. So it's a well-loved retail business there. Proposed is a patio extension project. They in their application would like to propose extending their patio, adding railing, adding new lighting, and adding fans underneath that roofing. I have a conceptual rendering here provided by the applicant. And this is not your typical commercial center project. You know, the commercial revitalization grant really focuses on that, but we as staff really saw a great opportunity here to bring life and art to one of our activity centers. You might recall that according to the land use plan, the Sugar Creek Center, which is this office park, is the Sugar Creek Triangle is one of our regional activity centers, right? Which are supposed to be vibrant places with a mix of uses. And our civic arts team actually reached out to Q's Deli and to do a partnership with a potential mural on their building. One really great thing about this property is that there's not a property owners association, you have a willing property owner. And so there's really a great opportunity here for them to partner with Civic Arts to do a Visit Sugar Land related mural. The design of that mural is not known yet. They have to work with our Civic Arts team under their mural program. But the hope here is to extend the patio, do these infrastructure improvements first, and then do the mural after those infrastructure improvements are completed in late 25. The total cost of this project is $35,000 and requested from the 4B is 20%, or up to $7,000. The terms of the performance agreement in front of you is between the 4B Corporation and Q's Deli LLC. Construction must be completed within a year of the notice to proceed given to the contractor. And following that, Q's Deli will submit a complete reimbursement package with receipts, permits, pictures, showing that $35,000 was spent in order for the city to reimburse them for this project. And then there is a requirement for them to create and maintain at least 2 employees as required for these types of agreements. And so staff recommends that the Sugar Land 4B Corporation Board of Directors hold a public hearing and approve the performance agreement between the Sugar Land 4B Corporation and Q's Deli LLC. And so with that, happy to take any questions.
One question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun.
We will now move forward with consideration of an action on the performance agreement between Sugar Land 4B Corporation and Q's Deli LLC. Any discussion? Any questions?
No, we're gonna open a public hearing.
Need to open the public hearing.
I open the public
I'm gonna
hearing.
ask if there's anyone who'd like to speak,
Anybody like to speak?
then close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
And now,
Now, any questions? Yes.
Thank you. So one question here, the previous slide you mentioned, are there 2 new jobs or 2 existing jobs will be maintained?
It can be existing jobs as well, and you might note that this requirement is pretty low compared to maybe like a commercial center, but yeah, it is one.
This is not necessarily the creation, it's the existing job which are there.
Right, create or maintain. I know that says and, that should
And
say
yeah, it
and.
should be created or maintained.
Yeah, right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah,
And-
because I think the agreement it says will have,
Yeah,
which means the existing job will be maintained.
exactly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm assuming it's just at least 35,000 spent, right? So if they spend 33, is it just
Right, we will prorate that reimbursement
Okay.
to 20%.
20%? Okay, okay.
well, I'm a little embarrassed because I've been in Sugar Creek Center office there for 25 years now. And I've never stopped, and I'm going to do that right away.
I haven't stopped either, but that sandwich looked like
Yeah.
I need to be there soon.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the,
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Chair as well. Now go to item 5, workshop. We will now move on to item 6A, review of and discussion on the proposed retail refresh grant program. Jonathan.
Hi, Ward. Today, in front of you, we have a resolution SL4B 2509 in front of you. This is what I'm workshopping with you today. We have some new council, or excuse me, we have some new board members since this program kind of first came into being. So I'll be actually going over some context about why this program, the commercial revitalization program exists at the beginning, and also be doing a year-end review. And then I'll be talking about the proposed changes to our existing policy, which is this new policy, on the second half of the presentation. So let's kind of walk through a year-end review of the commercial revitalization grant. So this speaker comes from the land use plan. It talks about the life cycle of the city, right? And it talks about decline and redevelopment, and every city has this life cycle. For commercial property, what decline looks like is obsolete retail spaces with widespread vacancy, retail moving to other cities, infrastructure decays, that sort of thing. And redevelopment looks like the rehabilitation and transformation of infrastructure and renovation and redevelopment of retail to new uses or other retail. So that's the path we want to take. Other cities have, a few other cities have kind of retail and commercial related programs and policies. City of Plano is a similar city to us. They approved their policy for the retail revitalization policy in 2024. The city invites commercial owners to propose a project. They fund 10 to 15% of those improvements. And one of their kind of key first projects was the transformation of this grocery store and the related improvements so that a new tenant could come in, which has really revitalized the center and provided a positive impact to the surrounding neighborhoods. Arlington EDC partnered with a very, very poor condition kind of shopping center owner. I didn't word that right, but they supported a $6.1 million redevelopment project, and $2.3 million was funded through a performance agreement for a lot of the placemaking kind of elements, signage, that sort of thing. We also partnered with First Colony Community Services Association last year to do a commercial insights report. So what the Gensler did was they benchmarked our community, our commercial standards to those of other communities. And they found that our community's kind of aesthetic standards and the way we look in terms of commercial, like retail space, it's a little outdated, right? We're an older city, so it's kind of to be understood. They looked at things like materiality, signage, placemaking elements, and you can kind of see some of that study here on the slides, right? So here's some of our signage on the left, and Gensler proposed that that the city works with our property owners to update that signage. We also held a commercial centers roundtable. We had our large property owner associations at the table, along with some of our commercial property owners and commercial property managers, to kind of talk about these changes that Gensler proposed in their study. And some of the key themes that they talked about in terms of like barriers to reinvestment is that some of the architectural restrictions from the property owners association side, the POAs, was really restrictive and can really challenge the speed of doing business and making market-driven decisions. A lot of people talked about rules and regulations from the POA and the city side, and then of course expensive property improvements, right? Reinvestment and projects cost money. And so we asked them, what would encourage you to make these improvements? They told us ROI, of course, relaxing the POA guidelines and borrowing best practices from the nation and partnering with the city and the HOA. And after all of that study and that commercial roundtable, you as the board of directors approved this redevelopment and reinvestment grant program, the CRG Commercial Revitalization Grant Program. And this was intended for owners of commercial property with multiple retail tenants, right? Commercial strip centers. And so the purpose of this grant was to promote public spaces, renovated facades, pedestrian friendly settings, updating our look. This was exclusively for commercial centers, specifically commercial properties with at least 20 that were at least 20 years old and included multiple retail tenants. Outreach was conducted to all of these groups that were shown to y'all last year, right, with the blue star. We actually received 4 applications totaling over 2.7 million in proposed commercial improvements. You as the board approved 1 project at First Colony Mall, and 2 projects did not move forward. I'll be talking about those here in a second. And then 1 project, one project was just approved, Q's Deli. So then update that, right? But first, one of the first applications we received was for a commercial center down Highway 6 at the Shops at Williams Trace. Their property owner applied with a facade renovation. This is not the design. We actually have the design, but we weren't comfortable as staff showing you it to you as the board right at this time. It included a facade renovation, sidewalk improvements, landscaping, new seating, parking lot lighting. This was over a $2 million project, but they needed to postpone this project due to market conditions, and they've expressed interest in reapplying or rebringing this project back in about a year or 2. So we're really going to be tapping the shoulder about that. First Colony Mall, y'all are familiar with this. I think this whole this whole board wasn't here, but they are doing improvements to their lifestyle center with a new play area and seating enhancement. So this is going to be completed in early 26. Sugar Point Center. This is actually a center that neighbors Q's Deli. It's in the Sugar Creek Triangle. It's on the intersection of I always forget the name of this road. Derry Ashford and Highway 90. Thank you. Don't know why I can't remember the name of that road. But their proposed project was to replace this pylon sign that's located on their property. I have a picture of it on the next slide, but the cost here was about $75,000, but the proposed project could not meet city code, and there's really no way to kind of get it to meet city code, even though we kind of met with planning and tried for it. And so the lesson learned here was there's a lot of this old kind of signage on the north side of town that was built at a time when the development code wasn't where it is today, and so a lot of these signs are considered non-conforming signs. So whenever they fall down someday or become in disrepair, they actually can't be replaced completely to the way it was. It has to be built in a new as a new sign that meets our current development code. And so unfortunately, they were not able to move forward. And then Q's Deli, we just you all just approved that agreement. So the big question, why should we refresh this program policy, right? In the spirit of like constantly improving, we're bringing some policy improvements in front of you today. First, some reasons why, since this program was created, we have a new strategic plan that was approved by City Council, and this is a key strategic document for the city, right? It identifies key focus areas, priorities, the initiatives for the next 3 to 5 years. And so the main point, there's a great opportunity to improve the original pilot and align it to the city's latest strategic priorities. And so there's some specific parts of the plan that I wanted to touch on, specifically enhancing suburban community, right? It talks about expanding destination opportunities for all, design destinations for all generations, develop vibrant spaces through partnerships with businesses, right? Next, you have stimulating economic growth. It talks about job creation, attracting businesses, cultivating business partnerships, and driving that local job creation by enhancing our business, creating a business-friendly environment, right? And making Sugar Land the place to be. Finally, my favorite, fostering sensitive redevelopment. It's about fostering a redevelopment environment, right? Business-friendly environment, and implementing incentives that further drive the development and change that the city wants to see. And looking for opportunities of strategic infrastructure investment to incentivize the first development. So next, Sugar Land only has 4% of developable land. We're a city a little farther along on a life cycle, and so what growth will look like in terms of commercial spaces and retail is going to look a lot like commercial infill, reinvestment, maybe even redevelopment on some sites. So we did a lot of outreach to commercial center owners this year, and after all of that outreach, we firmly feel that we could expand our applicant pool a bit more, right, and reach out to more groups, not just the commercial center owners. We kind of found that there's a pattern of you're either a commercial center owner who's invested, really wants to kind of be all in on your property and is really all in on Sugar Land, versus a commercial owner who doesn't really want to do anything, has their tenants, is making money, getting that rent, and it can be really challenging to convince some owners to do projects. And so we actually want to expand the applicant pool to include more retailers, not just commercial property owners within our these two areas that are designated in the land use plan, right? On the left here, you have regional activity centers. These are those activity centers that are vibrant, include a mix of uses. These are like our key centers in the city, right? You have Sugar Land Town Square, Lake Point, and University Boulevard, Imperial, and the Sugar Creek Triangle. But you also have in the plan these areas that are designated as redevelopment areas, right? They're shopping centers throughout town that the group that did this land use plan saw as opportunities for reinvestment and redevelopment. And so we want to expand this grant to more retailers in the RACs and regional activity centers and redevelopment areas to implement the development that's desired by the city, that's kind of notated in that plan, that land use plan. A few years ago, we commissioned Urban 3. It's a land use analysis consulting firm who presented their findings to City Council about the productivity of our land, right? And this is one of my favorite maps. And the point of this analysis was to help our leadership be informed about the fiscal impact about current and future development, right? Every parcel of land has value, and anything that any change or any new development on that parcel of land, it's a fiscal and a financial decision, right? And so from this study, we learned that there's a lot of key areas in the city that provide a lot of value in terms of productivity, sales tax, property tax per acre. Sugar Land Town Square is one of our top ones, right? It's our premier mixed-use destination. You see it as the most valuable asset in terms of sales tax and property tax per acre. And it's a very productive, efficient use of land because of that dense type of development, right? But I think it's also important to note that there's other significant amount of sales and property tax that comes from other areas of commerce, right? Our Sugar Land Business Park is a huge driver for our property tax for our city, and it's a huge source of primary jobs and quality jobs for our city. But also our commercial centers, which you see in dark colors here, they provide a lot of sales tax for the city as well. So supporting commerce in these already productive areas is what I'm pitching here, and I think will help sustain more taxable value for the city. as well. The colors did not show up really well here, but retail as an industry, from sales tax alone, this doesn't include property tax. But for sales tax alone, retail is the leading industry for the city sales tax base. And so supporting retailers is essentially a investment into this chunk of the pie, right? And new retailers that come into town and new infill development that happens and redevelopment even, great new taxable value adds on to the tax rolls. I included some examples of retail infrastructure. And I wanted to talk about this before I go over the key policy changes, because there's limited ways that 4B corporations can fund retail projects, right? Per the state statute, it's a bit limited, and most cities out there don't have retail or small business programs using 4B corporations because of the way that the state statute's written. But there might be opportunities to use 4B funding for these type of projects through infrastructure, right? The statute talks about infrastructure necessary to promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises, including water, sewer, electric, gas, drainage, site improvements. So these are some of the projects that the 4B might be able to have a hand in incentivizing, right? Here you see the new Floor & Decor, which was built on University Boulevard and Highway 90. And they had to expand, or they had to spend about $88,000 to extend a water line to serve water hydrants and water meters to the site. And so there's a lot of these like not flashy projects that are very necessary for new retail projects to happen. Here's another one that's recent, Chair King site at University Commons. They spent almost $300,000 on a water line and sewer extensions. So these might be the types of infrastructures that the 4B might be able to fund. Give me 1 second, I lost my place here. Okay, so let's talk about the proposed policy update, the retail refresh grant, right? This is not only a rebrand, but updates to the existing commercial revitalization grant program. I want to propose to y'all 4 main focus areas. We already touched commercial centers and have provided an incentive for commercial center owners to update their property. This has a great good in the sense that there's multiple businesses being affected. We have some outdated spaces. A lot of people can benefit. And I'd like to suggest that we continue with that strategy of reaching out to these property owners and offering them this grant. But there's 3 other focus areas I'd like to propose. 1, experiential retail. Experiential retail is defined as like a type of shopping experience where the focus goes beyond simply selling products. It emphasizes creating memorable, engaging, interactive experiences, right? So for Sugarland, you can think of Tallier, Little Woodrow's, Go Ape, and many other concepts in Sugarland Town Square and First Colony Mall. Outside of Sugarland, you might think of Chicken and Pickle, that's a pickleball retail establishment. Pop Stroke, that's a putt shack or a putt kind of retailer, or Top Golf. And these type of retailers are important to your city because it creates destination retail, right? People come from outside of the city to attend your city and spend their sales tax dollars here. And so that's experiential retail. Let's talk about identified retail market gaps. I put a picture here of the former Gander Mountain space because there are a few of these examples of like vacant spaces in the city, especially like large spaces like this that are not on the tax rolls in terms of like sales tax, right? There's property tax being paid, but if there's no tenant in these buildings, there's a great opportunity to attract a tenant and fill these spaces. Other spaces I can think of, New Territory Shopping Center, that's where the former Randall's used to be, was replaced by an Al Rabas, which closed down. You know, whenever you have these big anchor tenants that are missing from your shopping centers, it can really affect the performance and the well-being of the other retailers that surround that anchor tenant. So providing an incentive for that kind of change would be desirable. And then finally, I put a bit here on infill development. You don't see this too often in Sugarland. It's a rare kind of thing, but I think it'd be cool to it would be great to provide an incentive for this type of development. So I put an example here of First Colony Mall, the Lifestyle Center. You know, this used to be this giant parking lot, and now you have this Lifestyle Center that was installed on top of that, and the city supported this a long time ago, right? But also at Market at Town Center, which is the shopping center across the street from City Hall, this building right here wasn't here when it was first built, right? That infill development kind of happened, and I've actually had a commercial property owner reach out to the city trying to get more information about some of our processes because he's interested in building a pad site. So infill is something that I think we should focus on as well. So now for the key changes, I kind of highlighted it in green. Most of the policies actually mirrors the commercial revitalization grant, but you'll see some key excerpts that kind of focus on individual retailers as a new type of applicant as well. So I added a new program goal, so catalyzing experiential retail, innovative market-driven concepts and infill development on underutilized sites. This grant is for that type of retail, not every single retailer in the city, right? We also added a new preferred development outcome in the policy. It's about supporting foundational retail infrastructure in key opportunity sites. So those key opportunity sites are the redevelopment areas in our land use plan, as well as our regional activity centers and neighborhood activity centers, which are clearly defined in those plans, right? And the policy talks about supporting key infrastructure improvements in those areas identified for redevelopment, because that's what the 4B can fund. We can really fund infrastructure for retail projects. And there's a focus on those focus areas that I just mentioned as well. So those types of projects. For retail, the reimbursement incentive being proposed is 30% of the project's total cost up to $50,000, while the commercial property owners, a commercial center incentive would be remain 20% uncapped. And the reason it's done this way is when you have a commercial center, you're supporting multiple businesses. The sales tax kind of return there is much greater because you're affecting multiple businesses. When you look at some of the return for each of these individual retailers at an annual level, the 50,000 number kind of seemed right in terms of an incentive, right? Because we don't want to incentivize greater than that individual business's sales tax return to the city every single year. So it's a little smaller there. And we added some language about the proposed projects having to meet the city's development code and property owners associations architectural requirements, because we encountered some issues with that this year. And so project proposals for individual retailers, I just kind of copied this language from the state statute for 4B funding. It's for infrastructure, right? So your water, your sewer, electric utilities, gas, site improvements and related improvements. And then we also added language about improvements that enhance the visual appeal of our streets and roadways, including upgrades to public facing signage. So what will remain the same? Well, we're going to continue to focus on doing some outreach to our commercial properties with multiple retailers, but now we have an additional retail incentive tool as well. And incentives are meant to be ways to fill a financial gap in economic development, right? And so we get inquiries all the time from commercial property owners or interested retailers who are interested in coming into our city, and we'll get lunch with them and they'll ask, what do you have for us? Do you have an incentive, right? And sometimes it's a little hard to answer that when they're not your primary kind of employer in the business park. We haven't really had a small business incentive tool for that type of project in the past, which is why we're proposing a small incentive through this program here. And yeah, a lot of the policies for development outcomes and goals are the same, just more of a focus on individuals and others. So following your feedback and questions of following this workshop, we'd like to bring this program policy back to y'all next month for a vote, and then do that marketing and outreach and an open call for commercial projects in the fall. And we'll be working closely with business development and development planning to get in front of projects early, see if there are projects with that gap financing kind of need or looking for something extra to come to the city, right? So using incentives to leverage those types of projects. And yeah, that's all I have for you. I'm happy to take your comments, questions, feedback, anything before this policy comes back to you next month. So, questions?
So one question I have, this retail refresh actually was originally meant for revitalizing the existing retail. If you give it to the new development like University Commons, wouldn't that money be given to what developers should have done? For example, this water line or sewer line in a new construction,
Right.
Ideally developers should have done. If we pay money for that we are paying to the developer.
Right. Let me use a different example. You have the former Chick-fil-A that turned into a Velvet Taco, which recently opened, and also the TGI Fridays, which turned into a Shake Shack about 2 years ago, right? With these types of projects, there are small infrastructure costs that the city might be able to incentivize, because their TGI Fridays, like this stood here for a long time before it was redeveloped into something else. And we do get asked as economic developers, like, what incentive tool do you have for us? We want to come to your city. And it can be a little awkward when a lot of our existing incentive tools, like our direct incentive tool and our tax abatement tool, is more for your business park, right? And so I see what you're saying. The Floor & Decor and the Chair King might be not the best example because it's green space, right? But we'd like to see more of what you kind of saw with like Velvet Taco and Chick-fil-A.
So these two which you are saying, these are redevelopment.
Yeah, this
Something
is true.
existing before, there is no developer,
Yeah.
now you are converting, that this I am fine.
Yeah,
But when you are creating a new shopping mall,
like green
the
space.
developer is building and selling, it
Right,
doesn't make sense to give incentive to the developer unless it's part of the developer agreement when we sold the land or something.
yeah, that's a good comment. And honestly, yeah, that's a great comment.
So that would be, I would prefer to have that part out and only apply to the redevelopment or renovation.
I like it.
John, in the guidelines, don't you have that it has to be in a redevelopment area?
Right, and so part of the kind of protection from that, like this might be really far back on the slide, like a lot of the city only has 4% of green space left, so you're not gonna see a lot of like what you saw in University Commons. Because there's not a lot of land for new commercial centers, so that might help with that. And in terms of like where we want to support retail redevelopment projects, or true retail redevelopment projects and infill, we're looking at these specific areas, regional activity centers, as well as redevelopment areas.
Yeah.
Which
So
are all
I'm
shopping
fine with
centers.
having for any redevelopment anywhere.
Yeah.
But my personal view is for the new construction,
Yeah.
which is to be done by developer.
Yeah.
Possibly we should keep it out. That's my feedback.
Noted. It's a good comment.
Did you say that last year, though, we only had 4 applicants and only 1 approved?
We're 2 approved.
As of today.
Second today.
And that-
Elliot was the second.
Sure. I guess my follow-up question, are we marketing this program properly, or wouldn't expectations be higher?
To answer that question, part of the reason we're expanding the applicant base is because when you think about who we originally marketed this to, we marketed this to individual property owners of these commercials. If you think about it, there's only so many, go back to the map, there's only so many commercial centers in town, and we did a lot of outreach to each of these groups notated by the blue star, and it was really challenging to get them, to encourage them to do something with the property.
So it's a question, not a judgment. I don't.
Oh, no, it's all good. And so we're definitely thinking about that too. I think casting a wider net will help to address like maybe that there, but I will say that I was pleased with how we got a total we got a proposal to totally redo a facade of one of our centers within the first like week of us opening application. Meaning that we did build a relationship there, we did get the right project, but you have to remember that these groups too, that own these centers are making financial decisions on whether to invest in Sugar Land or invest elsewhere. And with capital projects that cost millions of dollars like these, it takes some time sometimes in their organizations to make these types of decisions. So we want to keep the incentive for them just in case someone bites.
But I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I have a quick question. In the first year, what was the amount that we had set aside for the grant program? And then the follow-up would be is when we expand the program, is the amount going to be the same, or are you going to increase it?
Oh, great question. So for the for fiscal year 26, or excuse me, for fiscal year 25, y'all or I need to stop saying y'all, excuse me, you all gave us the direction to allocate about 500,000 for incentives for the commercial revitalization grant. I believe the direction is the same, except for instead of it coming from our reserve having a pot from our reserve for opportunities funding, we have some money set aside for our business incentives account.
Okay.
So I think the same 500,000 is envisioned for that incentive, but it's coming out of a different account, the
Yeah.
business
The
incentives.
target would be the total amount of dollars. We would just hope to spend the whole 500,000
Right.
applications.
And the hope is, 500,000 at a 20% or 30% incentive, that's at least $2 million in new improvements, right? And we did get an application for like over $2 million of improvements, but due to market reasons, that had to be postponed, so.
You guys always have the option with the reserve for opportunity. That's
Yeah.
why it's there.
Okay.
We all met with the different areas. Did that inform these decisions here? Like, did they say if you did this, this would be more helpful than the current program?
Yes, sir. And one of the main issues in terms of reinvestment right now is that money is expensive in terms of interest rates. It's hard to get a loan for these things, and things are quite frankly expensive right now. So we're hoping that providing like a 20 to 30% incentive for some of these projects is enough to get someone to do the jump despite those high interest rates, right? And doing business right now. So we've definitely talked to a lot of property owners over the last year, got lunch, done calls, and we feel confident that this is the way moving forward, so. Good. Sorry.
Am I right to understand the money is only for external improvement? Or can it only be done like what they do inside, interior decoration or whatever?
That's a great question. Let me move on to let me move to this slide right here. So I don't think I have a slide for it, but if you're a commercial center, this is mainly for anything that the 4B can fund. So infrastructure is mainly that cost, but we want our, let me re-answer that. I didn't explain that well enough. For commercial centers outside, we want to see facade, we want to see public facing improvements that affect multiple businesses. And if the 4B has an eligible expense that we can incentivize through that, then we want to support those properties, right? For retail, we like a lot of these improvements for infrastructure like water, sewer, electric. It's not flashy, it's not on the outside, right? But sometimes that's the like a little cost that we might be able to do to support a new Shake Shack coming into town or a new Velvet Taco. You see what I mean? And so that's kind of the difference there.
Just follow-up question.
Sorry.
You had those two pictures, Velvet Taco and other one. Did we give incentive to them or this was just as a picture?
Oh, great question. No, they came up organically, which is great, right? Not giving an incentive is always a good thing. But there are other properties. I'm gonna take one for example, like the 24-hour fitness space on Highway 59 frontage road, kind of near Sugar Creek. That's been vacant for I want to say at least 5 years. And there's a lot of these sites that are not as prime real estate as maybe these places that are near Sugarland Town Square that could it would be useful to have some sort of incentive to get someone into the space, right? Into that space, excuse me. So
Any other questions? Let's go.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
thank you. Thanks.
We'll move on to item 7, director's report. Actually, 7A.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So yes, we've got a few things to update you on. As a reminder, this is not just, what redevelopment is working on, but the overall large economic development umbrella that we like to make sure that you all are informed about. So this is a report out on all of those things. There's our pretty picture from the FIFA announcement. That was a big deal. We'll be covering that in a second. So for business development, HCSS hosted the Association of Equipment Manufacturers on August 25th, inviting elected officials and city representatives. HCSS, it's always so hard to say, was chosen as one of the exclusive 22 stops of the AEM Manufacturing Express Tour in Texas, and just really showcasing, Sugar Land's influence and innovation in the construction software sector with HCSS. They are, what do we call them, are the Google of Sugar Land. So the type of software that they have been able to develop over and over the years has just really been tremendous for the business park and their expansion. It's important to acknowledge that these really events elevate, our local economy and really showcasing not just the business, but also Sugar Land as well. All right, Next Gen Talks. This is a conference that Alba and Colby attended, specifically focused on the life sciences, and Alba spoke on the panel. And this was a really great opportunity, not just for the life sciences in Sugar Land, but that Alba has really been recognized as very knowledgeable about life sciences in general, and specifically for Texas, that she was asked to be on this panel. So it was a great success. All right, for tourism, Destination Texas was September 3rd through the 5th. There was over 400 attendees in the destination organization space, and Alyssa served as on the panel with Hunted Partners, which is the group that is working on our tourism strategy. So again, another staff member that gets put on a panel, really focused on what our industry specific items are. All right, and then the big event that happened, the smiling faces that were there. We had the World Cup press conference on September 3rd. So Visit Sugar Land has partnered with the Houston Host Committee as a host city supporter for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And we celebrated at the Sugar Land Regional Airport. The partnership will allow the city to obtain licensing rights, hold watch parties, and have its logo included in all the host committee materials when FIFA comes to town next year. The press conference successfully drew attention from key local and regional media, with 6 outlets that were actually in attendance at the press conference, including Community Impact, Fort Bend Star, Houston Chronicle, KHOU, Fox 26. And then there was also an influencer, Omar Silva, that also participated to really amplify it on the social media platforms. So with all of this, combination of press conference attendance, there was an embargoed story coordination with journalists and a lot of proactive media. The campaign secured significant coverage, which was total 10 digital stories, 2 broadcast segments, and 5 social media posts. And this comprehensive media engagement really highlighted Sugar Land's position as a premier destination for any of the FIFA-related events coming up in 2026, and really showcasing the city's ability to take in this large attention for this upcoming event that's coming. All right, one more tourism update. It was Houston Restaurant Week in Sugar Land. And so that took place August 1st through September 1st, highlighting some of the best culinary finds that we have in the region, but several of them were based in Sugar Land. And so Visit Sugar Land partnered with 9 influencers and Reeves, who manages Town Square here, to highlight all of the participating restaurants. We had over 300,000 social media impressions. It brought 1.6 thousand new followers to Visit Sugar Land's Instagram account just with this Houston Restaurant Week in the month of August. Obviously, all the visibility that it brought to our local restaurants. And then these really collaboration brought a lot of growth, not just for the Instagram account, but the exposures to those restaurants with no cost for those restaurants, right? In terms of that marketing exposure. Okay, the latest on Imperial. So it's been 3 months since we acquired the property, and we've been hard at work behind the scenes, really working on safety and security and visibility of the site. There has been mowing, there has been clearing of debris, removing trash, just overgrown shrubbery, stuff like that to make it more visible. Also, better for us to monitor the site, and also deter anybody that just wants to maybe do some stuff that we'd rather them stay off of the property. So there has been no trespassing signs that have been placed up, increased security patrols at the site, and we are working on setting up cameras as well that will be part of our security measures. The Char House and the surrounding property remain closed to the public for safety reasons, but you can still take a tour virtually of the Char House. We just shared that link this week to the eBlast, as well as you can go straight to the webpage and take a virtual tour of the Char House. We've gotten a lot of course, interest and questions about that since we acquired the site. It is not safe to do so physically, but you can certainly see a lot of the Char House through this virtual tour. So I encourage you all to do that. And then portions of it are still open to the public. The Fort Bend Children's Museum still operates there. They are very busy. The Sugar Land Heritage Museum is also still open to visitors on the 2nd floor. So those areas are open to the public. The other areas are being secured, and especially the Char House, but you can look at it virtually. And then this fall, we'll be working on launching some opportunities in the community to have some engagement. And then we'll also be working on some possible cleanup events that would allow other members of the community to participate while we continue to make the adjustments to the site that we need to now that we're the owners. All right, Sugar Land Better Block. It is opening next weekend, and this is a part of the Civic Arts Division and funded by 4B with its funding to public art. And they have partnered with Better Block, which has a mission to support public art, placemaking, and other initiatives. And together with the neighborhoods and local volunteers, the Civic Arts team will be temporarily transforming 119 Brook Street in the Belknap Brookside neighborhood into a vibrant gathering place filled with art, music, and community-driven design. This is a 6-month activation. So although it starts next week and they're going to be starting to build it next week, there's going to be 2 free community events next Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. and Saturday 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then our department will be present at those events to celebrate this project. And this is really kind of just the beginning of dialogue, and also what can you do with a vacant space to revitalize it into something else and bring an kind of pop-up opportunity to the community, and see what might happen after this engagement event of what maybe could be done more permanently or continue to be done in a more organic manner. And then I think, oh, no, one more thing. So we've got a lot of updates. We've got a lot of information. Please, if you haven't already, follow us on LinkedIn. We have a lot of information and updates that we're sending out every week. And so this is a great place to keep up to date. And if you're getting asked, you know, out in the community, what's going on, tell them like, follow, you know, Sugar Land Economic Development on LinkedIn. That is where a lot of the information about all the things that we're working on from business development, tourism, and redevelopment is shared. And then finally, one other thing is that our Great Homes program has come to a close. And so, in terms of we've closed out all of the reimbursements for this year. And so we'll be prepping for year 4 in January. But in the meantime, we have been also working on some of the program administration and efficiencies. And so we do have an AI bot, Renovate, who you are welcome to put your question into her, and she will pop back the answer to make it a little bit more streamlined for people that are asking questions about the program to get the answers. So if you go to the webpage related to Great Homes, you will be greeted by Rena, and please ask her your question. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Questions or no?
No questions during reports.
Well, any motion to join the meeting, adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, second, all. At this time, the September 17th